Alright, this is going to be the histology on the adrenal glands. Okay, so you can see the adrenals sit on top of the kidney. Okay, then when you take a slice, a histology slice through the kidney, the adrenals, and you stain it and put it on a glass slide and then put that under a microscope, this is what you'll see. All right. Now, keep in mind the adrenal gland has two layers to it. Okay, the outside most layer to the adrenals is called the adrenal cortex, and the inside most layer is called the adrenal medulla. Okay. And so collectively you see all the different layers here to the adrenal gland. Okay, now grab another blank sheet of paper. We're going to draw some adrenal parts out in just a minute. Okay, here we see a histology view of the adrenal glands. Okay, so this part is the cortex. Okay, so you can see that this area, okay, all of this is the cortex, and this middle inside area is the medulla. Okay, going back to the lab exercise, so this is in the book, they break it down here really nice for you by the different zones that you find in the adrenal cortex. Okay, so essentially all of this is what they call the zona, or zones, or the different layers found within the adrenal cortex. Okay, so we have three layers. This would be the most superficial area as we work down to the deep layers, and then this would be the medulla area. So that's the deepest part. Okay, so we're going from superficial to deep. Okay, so back at the actual histology slide here, same thing. You can see that we are superficial here, and we're going to work our way to the deep layer, the inside most being the adrenal medulla. Okay, here's another slide that is showing you the adrenal cortex going from superficial to deep. Okay, now if you look closely, and this is what's going to help you identify on a test whether you're looking at an actual slide under a real microscope or looking at a slide this way, you can see the number of cells. Okay, so this zona glomerulosa, when you scan your eyes back and forth, you see a great concentration of cells. Okay, and then the zona fasciculata looks less dense, doesn't look like there are as many cells. Okay, so lots of color here because of the amount of cells. Okay, fewer cells here, so the color isn't quite as sharp as the glomerulosa area. And then as you work your way down to the reticularis, you can see another change in the concentration of cells. Okay, it's just an easy way to try to identify the three different layers to the adrenal cortex. Okay, the zona glomerulosa, the zona fasciculata, and the zona reticularis. Now once we get to the inside, this is all adrenal medulla. Okay, now on the blank sheet, we're going to draw this out and then explain what each layer is going to do for us. Okay, as we draw this out, try to draw it as close to the way I'm drawing it as you can. Okay, for starters, there's the adrenal gland that would sit on top of the kidneys. Okay. This is the cortex area, and that would be the medulla area. Okay, so we're going to take a section out of this and zoom in or blow it up. Okay, ideally try to make a rectangle like this. Okay, and then we're going to have different zones here. So try to draw it just like this. Okay, so here's an area. And there's an area. So essentially we're looking at this as a space, this area as a space, and this as a space, and this. Okay? So 1, 2, 3, 4 different areas or zones we're going to look at here. Okay, starting with the top layer, just like we looked at on the histology slides, this is the zona glomerulosa. Okay. All right, the next layer is the zona fasciculata. Okay, the next layer or zone is the zona reticularis. Okay. What helps me to remember is the G, F, R. Okay, not to be confused with glomerular filtration rate, which is a kidney lab, a kidney function you can do. So the GFR is the glomerulosa, fasciculata, and reticularis. Okay, so what do these zones do? Okay, the zona glomerulosa, you'll find the mineralocorticoids are released from this layer. Okay, the mineralocorticoids. And this would be like your aldosterone. Okay, aldosterone, its function is when it's released, it's going to increase sodium reabsorption, It increases sodium reabsorption, so that means you're going to keep sodium, and it's going to increase your potassium. Now remember, K on the periodic table is potassium, so it increases potassium excretion. Okay, so you're going to keep sodium and get rid of potassium in the presence of aldosterone. Okay, the next layer, the zona fasciculata, this is where you find the glucocorticoids. Okay, like cortisol. Okay, cortisol is typically released in response to stress. And cortisol does a lot of different functions in our body. We might get into that later on in the semester, but for now the quick version is it will increase fat catabolism and starts to decrease in glucose and amino acid uptake in skeletal muscle. Amino acid in skeletal muscle. So the glucocorticoids are released from the zona fasciculata. Okay, the next layer, the zona reticularis, this is where the androgen hormones are released from. Okay, those are the male and female sex hormones, which are testosterone, estrogen, and progesterone. So yes, women have testosterone, estrogen, and progesterone, and so do men. Just the ratios and concentrations are different, but these are released from the zona reticularis. Okay, the next layer down is the medulla. The adrenal medulla, and it releases your epinephrine, norepinephrine. Okay, epinephrine, norepinephrine, and that is released when the sympathetic nervous system is activated. And there's basically two ways to activate your sympathetics. One is through exercise, the other is through stress. Okay, fight or flight stuff. And the quick version is we all get stressed at times, which means we're in sympathetics. And also these stressful times could be, test anxiety, just cultural things, loss of job, whatever, that kind of stuff. And then you have other forms of stress, fight or flight, like legitimate emergency situations. But no matter where your body falls on the stress spectrum, once you're in that mode, you are in sympathetics and therefore releasing epinephrine, norepinephrine, and other stress hormones.